What is up, guys? J'espère que vous allez bien, que vous êtes en pleine forme. Bienvenue sur le podcast Conversation Awesome avec Karmakin. A place where we speak Franglish, say the word awesome a lot, mais surtout un endroit d'inspiration et d'éducation pour vous aider à optimiser votre santé globale from the inside out. Mon nom est Claudia, fondatrice de Karmakin, et ma mission avec ce podcast est de t'amener dans un monde de développement personnel, d'optimisation d'habitudes de vie et de découverte so you can unleash your potential and live the life you truly want and deserve. Merci d'être à l'écoute. You're awesome. Alright, what is up, guys? J'espère que vous allez bien, que vous êtes en pleine forme. Merci d'être à l'écoute encore cette semaine et bienvenue si c'est ta première fois sur le podcast. Welcome, welcome, come on in! Aujourd'hui, j'ai une invitée awesome à vous présenter. On a eu une super belle conversation, surtout pour les femmes qui veulent perdre du gras, qui sont tannées de faire des diètes extrêmes, qui veulent se transformer from the inside out, mais sans suivre des régimes restrictifs qui nous rendent misérables, qui ont l'impression qu'ils ont peut-être tout essayé dans leur vie, puis il n'y a jamais rien qui a fonctionné sur le long terme. Ben c'est ça te parle, ou si tu veux juste apprendre pourquoi c'est important d'avoir une approche qui est flexible quand on veut atteindre ses objectifs de santé ou de perte de gras, ben la conversation awesome d'aujourd'hui va certainement t'aider avec tout ça. Donc, comme je disais aujourd'hui, invité awesome, je reçois Carrie que j'ai rencontrée, je crois, en 2017 lors d'un événement avec toutes sortes de conférences là, pour les fitness professionals et on est resté en contact grâce aux réseaux sociaux depuis. C'est une des rares personnes que je suis sur les réseaux sociaux parce que j'apprécie beaucoup son contenu qui est très, très straight to the point. Un peu comme moi, elle adore défaire des mythes, enlever de la confusion dans tout ce qui est, comme je disais, nutrition, diète, perte de gras, suppléments et tout ça. Donc, on a une philosophie qui est assez similaire et elle a elle-même vécu 2 transformations extrêmes. Donc, elle a perdu 100 livres une première fois pour faire vraiment une compétition de fitness et ensuite, elle a perdu 70 livres suite à la naissance de son petit garçon. Et vous allez l'entendre dans son histoire, là, je veux dire dans son adolescence, début vingtaine, c'était quelqu'un qui était overweight, qui buvait, qui faisait le party, qui mangeait mal, qui a tout essayé, puis il n'y a rien qui a fonctionné, jusqu'à temps qu'elle étudie, qu'elle change son approche et surtout qu'elle change son mindset. Donc, on va parler de tout ça dans la conversation awesome d'aujourd'hui. Prends des notes, sois bien ouverte d'esprit et évidemment, laisse-nous savoir par la suite si tu as des questions, si tu as des aha moments. N'hésite pas à nous taguer là, sur Instagram ou Facebook pour nous dire ce que tu as retenu de la conversation. Évidemment, cette conversation-là va être en anglais. Donc, je vous souhaite une excellente écoute and take some notes. Welcome, Carrie, to this awesome conversation. How are you today?
I'm good, Claudia. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm excited about this conversation. I feel that it's going to be very helpful for the women who are listening to us today. You have an incredible, inspirational story. You help women just like me transform their bodies, strength train, get rid of like the crazy intense fat diet. So I feel like this conversation is going to be very valuable to us.
Absolutely. I'm so happy to be here. And yeah, I definitely have lots to share. I work with hundreds of women myself and have been through it myself. So I feel like that's kind of, helps me relate to people better.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's start with that. You have, like I said, an incredible journey. And I know you mentioned before we pressed record for this conversation that you have a full podcast episode on this. So obviously I'll put the link in the show notes. If anybody's listening, want to hear more about your story, I'm sure they're going to learn way more on your specific podcast, but let's talk about your journey, how you can relate to the women who want to lose weight and the transformations and everything you've tried. So let's give some context to our listeners.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. As Claudia mentioned, I have an entire podcast episode on my journey because it's obviously hard to kind of narrow it down into one short episode, but ultimately, I spent majority of my life, battling my weight, struggling with low confidence. I had an eating disorder for probably about 10 years. Just the whole thing. Woke up every day, uncomfortable, hated going shopping, clothes never fit me. Compared myself to my friends, all of that. It was just a really long time. And over those years, I did Weight Watchers. I used creams on my belly. I did raw diets. I went vegan. I used to just find diets in the back of magazines and books, and I tried everything, even, pills from my doctor, that ultimately ended up giving me like anxiety and like all these things that came from it. So anything that is out there, you name it, you name the product, whether it's like a shake weight, like when you used to have the shake weights or like the ab crunch machines, I had everything. I tried it all. I even used to like put saran wrap, like the plastic wrap around my stomach to try and like shrink it. Little things like this. So so definitely been through it all. I started, strength training initially and saw a huge difference, not just in my appearance, but it just felt good. I really liked how I felt after, and without obviously making this a super long story, I got into bodybuilding and kind of ended up under a coach who had me doing more restrictive dieting. Like the traditional bodybuilding diet is very like, there's like 10 foods you can eat. And I did it. I lost about 100 pounds. I won a bodybuilding show, but didn't ultimately find happiness. It was like, okay, I'm small, but my head is still the same. The thoughts I'm thinking are still the same. I didn't really fully change yet. And then I found flexible dieting. A friend introduced me to, just more the science behind nutrition. So I started to educate myself more, became certified, through precision nutrition, understood more about balance, flexible dieting approach, like learning how to include the foods you love in your diet. I understood calorie balance and just kept strength training. And on top of all of that, did a lot of mindset work along the way, which is the key to everything. For those who don't know, like I regained about 70 pounds when I got pregnant with my son, mostly because I'd come out of years of like the bodybuilding diet. So my body just, was in a place where I almost needed it. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. I'm back down 70 now, but have a whole new mindset. I'm just a totally different person. I'm very happily 10 to 15 pounds more than what I thought I would have wanted to be, but the life that I have because of it is incredible. So I think that's like it in a nutshell. Yeah.
So 2 big transformations, 100 pounds the first time, bodybuilding show, and then gaining 70 pounds when you got pregnant with your cute Arlo. And and then losing it again in a very different way, different approach. And would you say that the biggest difference was your mindset?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The first time was, all I was focused on was that end goal. And it was almost like I couldn't be happy until I was, 10% body fat. Like, cause I said, it was bodybuilding show, you got on stage. And the problem is when you step off stage, it's just like the fad diet. It's like, sure, you can lose 20 pounds by like, taking laxative tea and cutting all the foods out you want. But when you get there and it's like me, when I stepped off stage, it's like, now what?
Yeah.
And you get stuck and nobody teaches you how to sustain a lifestyle. Like we think we want these rock hard, super lean bodies, but no one teaches you like what life might actually look like when you're there. It was unsustainable, and then the second time around with Arlo, I promised myself from the beginning that I wouldn't like love myself when I got to my end goal. I was going to love myself the entire way. And I bought clothes that fit me at every single size I was at. I was just like, this is who I am right now. Yes, I'm upgrading myself. I'm working towards a fitter version of myself, but that doesn't mean I'm just going to have a closet full of clothes that don't fit me that I'm going to punish myself with. I got rid of everything that didn't fit me. Everything always fit me in my closet. So I just, just kind of loved myself at every version that I was, which it is just so much more. It was just better. I mean, all we want to do is feel good, right? We think by getting there, we want to feel good, or that we're going to feel better once we get to this goal. And it's like, well, you can do that now and still work towards your goal. It's not like I
love that. And I always say that to my client, like you can be proud of yourself. You can love yourself fully in the present moment, but that doesn't mean that you cannot still work towards a goal, whether that's in your finances, your business, your relationships, or your weight loss journey. And I always try to bring this transformation or weight loss or health process with a very positive mindset, because we're so used to thinking that, oh, I need to lose weight, restriction diet, I hate working out. Like there's so much negative, low vibing energy that go with the process. And you're like, it's okay, I can power through this. Once I get to my goal weight, then I'll be happy. And then it's just very, very short-lived. Like you said, like what's next? Or how do I sustain this? And it still feels empty sometimes, like, and you know, I never went through this big weight loss transformation. But for me, when I think about my performance goals, you know, okay, I squatted the 2 plates. Cool. What's next? What's the next goal? You know, so being happy in the process, I think is key for sure.
It's everything. It's the key. It really is. You know, they say that you don't want to hate your way into a smaller body. It's like, you know, you want to use exercise, use nutrition as a way to show yourself self-love, not the other way around. And I think people get that twisted, you know, unfortunately, and do it the other way around. They're, you know, using strength training and exercise, which I know you wanted to touch on too, but just as a way to burn fat or burn calories. And it's just so much more than that. It's literally the fountain of youth. It's like, it's the key to, like, you know, vitality.
Yeah. What are the biggest benefits that you felt when started doing strength training, and what do you see with your clients when they start doing? And by strength training, guys, we're not talking about lifting 2-pound dumbbells and doing 40 reps. Like, we're lifting weights, we're getting stronger, more confident. So what are some changes that you felt or you've seen with yourself, and that you see your client feel on a daily basis?
Oh, there's so many. Honestly, strength training is, like I said, is literally the fountain of youth. It's like, from a physical standpoint, you know, less pain, less aches and pains, improved posture. I mean, I gained an inch in height. I kept thinking the doctor was wrong. And I was like, no, it's just because I have quite a heavy, like a big chest. And like my whole life, I used to kind of hunch forward. I didn't realize, but with strength training, with my posture and everything, you know, I gained height. So I just naturally looked more confident from that. I mean, if like we're talking like from a vanity standpoint, I've got curves like that I never had before. You know, I built a butt from nothing. In high school, I used to like be called pancake butt because it was just like an entire back that there. Yeah. And now, you know, and it's like nice to look and be like, I did that, you know? And then from like a mental health, all of that, it's just, it sets the tone for your day. It shows you like going in and doing something, like when you're not feeling motivated and reaping the benefits from it. Like, it teaches you about like delayed gratification, which can transfer into other areas in your life. You know, if you come through a hard, like a challenge in your life, you're like, I know I can do it because you showed yourself, you know, I've pushed through the last rep of my squats, or, you know, it's just, it really teaches you that discipline. It's like, you know, like in the Army, when they make you make your bed in the morning, it's like those little acts, like it just kind of translates into everything else you do. But yeah, it's just like I live in Bermuda. So just being able to, when we rent a boat, like not have to use the ladder, I can literally like grab and pull myself onto the boat. And it's just like silly little things like that, you know, or going for a walk, and maybe you lost your way and you have to walk an extra like half an hour to an hour. You're like, yeah, I got this. It's nothing. Like it just becomes who you are, and you just live a better version of yourself, I guess.
Yeah, I agree with this. And again, this is what I tell my clients all the time. Like, we train, like we do specific strength workouts and specific cardio workouts to help us live our life, right? So when it's gardening season and you're on your knees Saturday, Sunday, all day, and you're like, oh, I wasn't as sore as I thought I would have been. Or when you pull yourself up on a boat, or when you, I don't know, go hiking and you have to climb up these stairs, like, oh my God, like I can trust my muscles. I can trust my strength. And then this give you confidence that could, like you said, just, you know, relate to any other areas in our lives. So yeah. What are some advice, or like 2-3 tips that you could give women who are listening to us, who are still on the fence or don't really know where to start with strength training, or still think that if they lift 5 pounds, they're going to get bulky and too muscular?
Honestly, if you tried to get bulky, if you went into the gym with the purpose that you wanted to get bulky, you may be lucky enough to get toned. You may be lucky enough because there's so much that it takes to get there. Like the amount of food you have to eat, like the women you see that actually look bulky for the most part are, taking little extra ingredients here and there, like they're enhancing themselves. They are probably working out like 6 days a week and spending an excess amount of time eating a surplus of calories, which most of you probably don't do or don't want to do.
Yeah.
Like you have to purposely want to. And even if you did, like I said, best thing, you might get a little tiny bit of definition, so I would say, if you're on the fence with strength training, like understanding that a lot of the stuff you might see on Instagram or social media, people do that for like, just so that it looks good. Like it's master the basics. It's not rocket science. The best workout programs are, this simple things like a squat, a shoulder press, a back row, a bridge, a deadlift, like these simple little movements. And it doesn't have to be fancy. You don't have to be lying on the floor out of breath at the end. The whole point of your workout is that you leave feeling better than when you came in. Just it's not all glitter and fancy. It's just mastering the basics, the basic movements over and over again. And I think a lot of people I hear, and maybe you guys can relate, is people will be like, oh, it's boring. I go in and it's like, oh, I gotta, rest for 2 minutes and I'm sitting here. It's like, yeah, well, strength training is not meant to entertain you, but what you can do is, bring the entertainment in, listen to your favorite podcast, make an amazing playlist. You know what I mean? Or listen to an audiobook or something, and you kind of can bring that entertainment in and kind of make it a special time for yourself.
Absolutely. Because if we go back to what we were saying earlier, that we should be celebrating our bodies through the process and not like, oh, here's another strength training. I need to do my 4 sets of squats and then my shoulder press. And I hate push-ups. Again, it's just the negative energy. Whereas, okay, no, I'm doing this because I'm building my muscles. I'm going to feel stronger. I'm listening to an awesome playlist. I'm tracking the weights that I'm using and I can squat 5 pounds than I did last week. This is what we mean about bringing some awesomeness and positivity and like good vibes to your workouts, because then you get the results even more, right? Because it's just enjoyable, which will help you staying consistent. And you mentioned sustainable before with your diet. It's the same with training.
Yeah. And I think you made a good point, and I would have added that in is, another tip, like when you're starting, is to track your workouts, because there's nothing more rewarding. And to get the best results, obviously, you want to be progressing. So tracking your workouts and seeing where you have improved is such an amazing way to monitor, progress that's not scale related. That's not like just like physical related or physique related, because you're not going to go in and do a workout and leave and like, lose 10 pounds or change your body overnight. So it's a nice way to keep you going, is to kind of challenge yourself in that way.
Absolutely. And if we're going to stick to the basics for a while, I still squat, deadlift, bench press, chin up every week. I've been doing that for like 15 years, like the basics. There's a reason why these compound movements are so effective. And so tracking the weights that you're using, again, it's a bit of a challenge and it makes it interesting. And just changing, okay, I'll do it with a barbell, I'll do it with a dumbbell, and like the progressive overload, like trying to make it a little more challenging for you every week. Obviously, if you have no idea how to do it, this is when you can call me or Carrie for a specific program. But yeah, the improvement and seeing yourself change and get stronger by tracking your workouts is, again, another tool to stay consistent and have the results in the long term. Yeah.
Absolutely. Awesome. Absolutely. Yeah.
I want to get back to flexible dieting and calorie counting and all of that.
Yeah.
What was the shift for you to realize that, these crazy diets and everything I'm trying, it's not working? How did you, again, it's in your mindset, right? Because I have clients, they work with me for a while. And even though they know the approach, like the new approach that we're working on, sometimes they're still like, I still need to like cut my carbs. And I was like, but why? Right? Like we have so many like myths and beliefs. And again, it's nobody's fault. It's just the way that everything we see on social and like the magazines and everything and the fat diet. So what was the seed that was planted for you to start shifting your perception that, maybe the way I'm trying to do this and it's not working, maybe there's another way and let me try it.
Yeah. Honestly, I was in disbelief for so long. Like I said, I was very deep in that. And not saying there's not like, I mean, there's a lot of bodybuilders who do flexible dieting. I just was not in that group of people at the time. Like I was kind of with the old school bodybuilders, the tilapia,
chicken and rice and broccoli.
Oh my gosh. Oh yeah. Like a quarter cup of rice. It's like, here's 3 grains of rice, to have with your cold tilapia and like your grapefruit. And oh my gosh. Honestly, like it took me a little bit. I remember a coach coming up to me who I was like interested in, working with possibly. And we were out for lunch and she was like, you can have a sandwich, right? And I was like, no, I can't have a sandwich. Like I could not imagine ever having a sandwich again, and I remember thinking she was nuts. Like I was like, she's obviously not a good coach. And I feel like there may be a lot of people out there when we, preach the moderation and like, flexible dieting and stuff, people may feel that way because they've been told from so-called professionals for so long that it's not the right way to do it. And you see it on social media. You literally can't even watch a sitcom or any TV show without someone making a joke like, oh, I got to cut my carbs again. Or, oh, I'm being bad. I'm having dessert. Like you just hear it all the time. So I think, recognizing that you don't have to believe everything you've ever been told. Like, there's programs running in your head and, kind of stopping and being like, is this actually true? And trying it, hiring a coach there's programs and stuff out there, but, you have to try it. You almost have to prove to yourself that you can do it. But the bodybuilding show I won, somebody who was in the industry, who was in doing competitions with me, she was the one who came up and said, like, you want to try this approach. So I actually hired a new coach who taught me about tracking my macros, tracking my calories. And of course, like you're still dieting and stuff, but this bodybuilding competition, I had a sandwich every day. Every weekend, like I was having like a donut here and there, I had my iced coffee with almond milk. I didn't have to drink like black coffee and like, you know what I mean? Like lemon water and all this stuff, which is fine, but I was allowed to have other stuff. And it's the show that I won. Not only because I had the energy on stage, like I felt good, but I actually, retained and built some muscle in the meantime because I wasn't depriving myself. So for me, I had to show myself. I was very skeptical. And then I showed myself. And I mean, the science is out there. It's, I think, following the right people, which can be hard if you don't know. It's very hard because this industry, the fitness industry, basically makes its money by creating fake problems so that they can sell you fake solutions. And, you can become a trainer like overnight with a certification. And then, unfortunately, like people will just take it and then, listen to advice that they've heard from somebody else and be like, oh, this is what it is, So I think it's just really filling your Instagram feed up with people who are kind of living the way you would want to live, I guess, and kind of preaching some form of sustainability and moderation, and if that's helpful. But yeah, I would say just like anyone who's talking in extremes or ever tells you you can't have this or this is bad, like just speaking in those words, that's usually a huge red flag. If there's a ton of rules that aren't around, what's best for you as a person, I think that's just something to be aware of.
Absolutely. And this is why I love having people like you on my podcast to showcase that there's some of us out there, right, who have a more holistic approach. And you don't have to do something drastic to get the body that you want, because even if you do something drastic, it's not going to last. And like we talked about before, you're still going to feel empty if you don't work on your mindset in the process. And if you don't educate yourself and be inspired to do something great for your body, And I feel like one of the misconceptions around flexible dieting or counting your calories is that, oh, my calorie intake is 1,500 per day. That means I can eat whatever. burgers and chocolate and candies. And it doesn't matter what I eat as long as I hit my macros or I hit my calorie intake.
Yeah.
And I don't agree with that, which is why I usually talk about quality of food first before we talk about portions. I feel like everybody should track at some point their food intake. Does that mean you have to count your calories forever, every single meal, and then weigh your food every single time? No, but just creating the awareness of like, if I have this big, awesome, colorful salad, it's like 300 calories. Whereas if I have a muffin from Starbucks, damn it, it's already 600 calories, So
exactly.
If you want to touch base on that a little bit, just that doesn't mean we eat crappy and shitty food all the time. We still want to go to whole, nutritious, close to nature foods as possible, but you can still have that 10 or 20% every day or every week. Like I follow your stories. You have ice cream, you have, different treats, but it counts in your portions for the day. But the rest of your food is whole and nutritious and healthy. So
yeah, that's you hit the nail on the head there. That's it. It's, when it comes to fat loss, could you potentially eat hot dogs and Oreos every day and lose weight? Yes, you could. If you're in a calorie deficit, if you're tracking your calorie intake, you're eating in a calorie deficit, which, there's calculations that you can do that. Please never let MyFitnessPal give you your calorie numbers ever. There's like a disclaimer right here. It will give you 1,200. Yeah. My son eats more than that every day and he's 2.5. So please do not do that.
Amen.
You could potentially eat like hot dogs, Coca-Cola and Oreos every day and lose weight. But, you're probably also going to lose muscle. You're going to feel like crap. Your blood sugar, there's just so much regarding your health.
Yeah.
So it's understanding that like, if there's a random day, like say you're taking a last minute road trip, you're rushing out and you have to eat gas station food. And there's a day where, things just aren't as optimal as possible. Like it's not going to be the end of the world if you hit your calories and it's like, maybe you got a pack of nuts from the gas station. You had to like get, a hot dog from 7-Eleven or something. Yeah. I don't know why I'm using hot dogs today, but it's okay. But like ultimately, majority of the time, what Claudia said, like you want to feel good, like circling back to why we're doing this in the first place. We're entering into a calorie deficit because we think this body we're after is going to make us feel good. But it's like, no, it's what you're doing along the way, and your nutrition is what makes you feel good. You're going to sleep better. You're going to have regular poops. Like who doesn't want to do that? Like it feels great. You want to stress less and, and just generally feel your best. So, tracking your calorie intake, like Claudia said, I have majority of my clients do this, but I set the expectation from the beginning. I tell them this is not something you should or have to be doing for the rest of your life. We are doing this to build awareness, like Claudia said, because a lot of people will, and this was part of what I did, will eat clean foods, not realizing that, if they're making a smoothie that has 2 heaps of nut butter plus some coconut oil and some chia seeds and then an entire avocado and then a whole banana plus mango and all of the, and then oat milk or whatever. It's like you're having a 1,200 calorie smoothie and saying this is good, where you looking at a 220 calorie donut and being like, that's going to make me fat. It's like, no, it comes down to your calorie balance. So having that awareness, you can make informed decisions about your nutrition, knowing that if I'm making a salad, maybe I'll have a quarter of an avocado and choose one type of seed to put on top, not an entire bag of trail mix on my salad or, it just helps you make better decisions. And what you monitor, just like a budget, what you monitor, you can manage. Yes. If you think of the calorie tracking, it's like me saying, I want to save to buy a house. And then saying, okay, well, I'm not going to shop for the next 3 years. I'm only going to make coffee at home. I'm not going to get my nails done anymore. I'm not going to get my hair done. All these things I'm just going to basically sacrifice so I can save for this house. And it's like, well, no, it's just more about where maybe I can shop at a place that is a little bit cheaper for groceries or whatever and save so that I can still have maybe get my hair done every 6 months or something like that. It's just budgeting.
Yeah.
It's knowing that it's not all or nothing. It's just making it fit, so indulgences are allowed.
Yeah.
But yeah. So that in a nutshell, but.
That makes so much sense. And you said a word that I love, awareness, and it goes both ways. I mean, on the one side, if you're just focusing on like all the proper food and like whole nutritious, and like you said, you can still eat too much for what you need. Avocados, granola, like the big bowls of like oatmeals, or I don't know, having, like you said, the whole bag of trail mix every day. Well, you might be eating a little too much, but healthy foods, it's going to help your digestion, your energy, your sleep, your strength training, your workouts, and all of that. So just being aware of that. But on the other hand, being aware that, a Kit Kat, I know you did a Kit Kat challenge.
Yeah. Yes, I did.
Which was freaking amazing. We'll talk about it after. Kit Kat, if I have a Kit Kat every day, which Carrie did, that doesn't mean I'm going to gain 10 pounds overnight, because I cheated on my diet, So yeah, let's talk about that. Let's talk about your Kit Kat challenge, the cheat, again, there's just such a negative emotion. Like I'm cheating on my diet, or Saturday night is my cheat night. And then people binge, and during the rest of the week, they're like in restriction mode. And like, I can't, all these negative emotions. Again, just like we were talking about with the training, same with nutrition. So you had a Kit Kat every single day for, I think it was 30 days.
30 days. Yeah.
Yes. So again, that was quote unquote your cheat, but it wasn't. It was part of your calorie intake. What happened?
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I was coming to the end of my journey, like postpartum. I kind of had a goal to lose, like to get around to where I was before I had my son. Like I wasn't like stuck on it, but I knew I wanted to like lose maybe like another 5 pounds ish. And I thought it would be fun to record it, for like document it every day on Instagram. And include a Kit Kat as part of my each and every day to prove to people that you can still make progress while eating the foods you love, or eating indulgences. Now, I said at the beginning, am I promoting that you eat a chocolate bar every single day? No, of course, I'm showing you in an extreme. Yeah. Would I ever have a Kit Kat every single day? No, because it annoyed me because the calories took away from other things I wanted to eat. I had to plan a lot. It was fun. I mean, I didn't get sick of them. They were delicious, but, basically, every single day I ate a Kit Kat. I tracked and planned my calorie intake every single day. So ahead of time, I planned, I had really filling nutritious foods during the day because I knew the calories from the Kit Kat were going to take from my total calorie amount that I was able to eat. And knowing that that's probably going to make me hungrier. And, if you're not eating whole foods when you are in a fat loss phase, so we're going to talk like from a fat loss perspective, hunger is a part of it. If you're in a calorie deficit, you're going to be hungry, but there's ways to manage that. And that's where whole foods are so important, big, bulky, voluminous salads, like omelets, like lots of protein, veggies and like potatoes and all of these things. So I planned that in advance, knowing like, how can I make myself feel as full as possible? And then had the Kit Kat every single day. I think I had it like 3:00 or something. Yeah. And I switched between the regular and the Kit Kat chunkies, which, I like the chunkies better, but we had a couple of votes and I ended up losing 7 pounds in the 30 days.
Wow.
And I documented that. And in that journey, I also showed how the scale spikes. I mean, that's a whole nother podcast on itself, but I showed people like, hey, the scale spiked 3 pounds today. This is normal. Yeah. And then it would go back down and I monitored my trends, which helped a lot of people because, if you're listening here, I'm sure at some point you stepped on the scale and be like, oh my gosh, I'm up 3 to 5 pounds. And like, it's normal. Yeah. There's so many reasons why the scale fluctuates. And again, I think that could be a whole nother podcast in itself, but just showed like what sustainable fat loss looks like. And also showed that like, it's not eating those foods aren't going to make or break your progress. If you have one donut on the weekend or one chocolate bar, I ate one every single day for 30 days. I haven't had one since, but
yeah. Can imagine you needed a bit of a break after.
Yeah. And if anyone wants to see that, like it is in my story highlights on my Instagram, which I think will be like the Instagram page will be linked after. But yeah, like I do have it in my story highlights where I document each and every day. So yeah, it's there.
Yeah. And again, it's not to say have a donut or chocolate bar every day, but it's possible to feel good, to feel healthy, even when you allow yourself once in a while. And again, she didn't have 5 Kit Kats per day, guys. She had one, which I don't know, 200-ish calories.
So like 220. Yeah.
Okay. So there we go. So she had one, no guilt. It was part of her plan, moderate portion. And then we move on. And the rest of the day, we make sure that we eat close to nature as possible. And Jordan Syatt did that as well with a Big Mac. I know you've worked with him in the past. I think I'll link that as well in the show notes. He had a Big Mac. That's like more than 500 calories every single day for 30 days. And same, I think he lost like 7 pounds,
Yeah.
Again, he had the same speech as you. I don't want you guys to eat a Big Mac every single day because, again, we go back to feeling healthy, and McDonald's is not very healthy. But then again, what is healthy and what is not? If you keep a healthy relationship with food, with having a Big Mac once in a while or Kit Kat once in a while, why not? Right. Yeah. And if that means you're going to be consistent and you're going to be sustainable with your other habits, your water intake, your protein, your fruits and veggies, then cool. If this helps you in the long run, perfect. Do it,
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I mean, that's for fat loss in general. Some people do have to have a more specific or stricter approach. For example, if you have intolerances, diabetes, like gluten intolerance, obviously don't allow yourself these kinds of foods. But in saying that, there's always a way to be flexible with your approach and not have to wait Saturday night for your cheat meal and your cheat night.
Yeah. Yeah. And research has shown, like, if you compare like a restrictive approach versus a flexible approach, like the flexible approach time and time again has been like proven to be better for long-term weight loss maintenance and like sustainability. Yeah. Cause we keep talking about like the negative, thoughts that go with stuff. And like, if you're telling yourself food's bad and, telling yourself, I can't have this, you're only going to want it more and you're not going to feel good, and it just perpetuates a never ending cycle of restriction and then overeating and then guilt. Yeah. And it's like just this over and over again. And it's torture. It's no way to live.
Yeah. I mean, we eat multiple times per day. Do we want to torture ourselves multiple times per day? Like we don't, right? Yeah. What are some tips for sustaining your fat loss? Because I feel like we put so much wins and like, oh, great job. You lost 20 pounds. You lost 10 pounds. You lost 70 pounds in your case, but I feel we should have that same kind of like energy and like celebrate the wins when you sustain the fat loss journey, because a lot of people will bounce back or do yo-yo dieting or they'll lose the weight and then they'll self-sabotage and gain the weight back. So what are some tips to sustain your weight loss?
Yeah, I love this. I actually saw, I can't even remember who to quote who they are, but someone posted this yesterday and I was just like, oh yeah, this is so good. Like, I wish I thought of it first. When you see someone post something, you're like, yes, that's exactly it. And he said, it was how you diet. Like, how you diet is how you will sustain. Like, so what I mean by that is you can't expect to go on a diet that you wouldn't eat regularly in order to lose fat. So doing something extreme in any way, and then expect to maintain, because if it's not something you can sustain forever, you're not going to sustain it. So what I mean by this is, what I eat when I'm dieting versus what I eat when I'm maintaining is pretty much the same, but just different amounts of it. And obviously, like, it's just less calories when I'm dieting. So I will swap out, some whole eggs for egg whites. I will, be a little more mindful about my toppings on my salad. I'll have a little bit less, like maybe not cook with cooking oil. I'll use spray oil. Like, there's just little things, but ultimately my diet is the same, which is why I can sustain it. You need to focus first on building habits, building sustainable habits, the basics. Like we talk about the basics with strength training. It's, including half a plate of veggies with, 1 or 2 meals a day, or just eating more veggies in general. Getting that regular protein intake in, like with every meal, a serving of lean protein, drinking more water, getting better sleep, better stress relief, allowing yourself foods you love in moderation without guilt. All of these things are habits that need to be practiced. And I like to start a lot of clients out with this first, so that when we do go into a calorie deficit and start tracking our intake, we've already got those things in place, because dieting is hard. It is hard even when done flexibly. And then ultimately, when you come out of it, those habits are already there. So you're just eating more of the foods you already eat. So, establishing those habits first and asking yourself, the diet I'm about to do, can I do this forever? If the answer is no, then it's not going to work for you.
Yeah. Why are you doing it?
Yeah, ultimately that's it. And spending less time dieting altogether, and more time maintaining your weight and practicing, healthy habits and strength training. I would say, people think that they're failing when they're not dieting or when they're not trying to achieve fat loss, but spending more time out of a diet phase can really help your metabolism when you do want to go into a diet phase, because then you can kind of just get in, get out, 8 to 12 weeks, put the effort in and get the heck out and live your best life,
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, we have so many things to deal with on a daily basis, like your kids, your work, your colleagues, your task in your house and all of that. It's like, we don't want to be spending half of our time thinking about foods and counting calories and all of that. So
yeah.
And habits is something I talk about all the time. So I love that approach. Just make sure we have the basic habits first, that we can do something a little more detailed or structured or more calculated. But then the switch between the phases is not as big as sometimes we think it would be, right? Like changing everything Monday morning or January 1st, like nobody wants to do that. So I like that approach.
Yeah.
For sure.
And I think like identifying as a fit and healthy person would say this, like I was a smoker a lot of my life, and I attempted to quit smoking so many times. Even when I started getting into fitness, like it still had me, because it's a very addictive, addictive habit. And it wasn't until I started saying I'm a non-smoker, because when I first tried to quit, like it was like, oh, I'm a smoker who can't smoke. I'm not allowed to smoke. I have to quit. And I was still identifying as a smoker, so there's that just like that discord, like it wasn't aligning. And once I started saying, well, I'm a non-smoker, I was like, okay, well now I'm going to become that, and same thing. If you are I'm a lazy person that has to exercise, or, like, what is it? Like I have no willpower, but I have to eat healthy, rather than saying like, I am a healthy person.
Yeah.
I am an athlete. When I was still overweight and I started going to the gym, I was like, I'm an athlete. I need to fuel myself like an athlete. I had regular massage therapy appointments. Like I treated myself like an athlete, and I still do. I go to a physio once a month just for a tune-up, even though nothing's wrong. I'm like, I got to make sure everything's in good. I got to get ready for that game or whatever I'm doing. And you just become that identity. I think that's a big part of it. That's the mindset. If you don't believe you're a fit and healthy person, you will never be.
Amen. That is huge. That is huge. Because you can have the perfect strength training program. You can have the perfect diet with your calories and all of that. But if your mindset is off and you don't actually believe you can sustain and achieve this, you're doing this for nothing. It's going to work maybe for a couple days, maybe a couple weeks. But then again, you'll self-sabotage, and the belief has to be there. So I love that. Just switching that mindset and the words we're using, like, no, like it's part of my identity. And you might not believe it at first. I'm sure when you were overweight trying to squat, you're like, oh my God, I'm an athlete. And you're like, I don't feel like an athlete at all. But you fake it till you make it. And then you believe it. And then all the habits that you do every day, you're proving to yourself that you can be an athlete, or in that case, right?
Yeah, so, that's it. And I literally became it. Like, I wish you guys could have hung out with me for a day before I became this person. I was a person, I was gossiping about everybody. I had something negative to say about like I was literally just an entire different person. And you really can change and transform from like the inside out. It just takes consistency and like, repetition.
Yes. Oh, that's amazing. So I can't believe, because I've known you for only a couple years now. I think it was 2017. So about like 4 years.
2017? Yeah, you're right.
So I don't know that version of you, right? So I can't even picture you being this party girl or like drinking and smoking and being negative. I've seen some photos that you shared on your Instagram. But you're living proof that we can change. We need a strong why. We need a different approach. We need to work on that mindset and creating those habits. It sounds simple, and it can be. It really can.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing. Anything else you want to add for today?
Oh gosh.
We've covered a lot.
Yeah. I think it's just, I feel like regarding I know we didn't get too much into the calorie counting bit, but I just wanted to add, like, there are camps, and what you're going to see on social media, there are people who will say, calorie counting is obsessive. And then you're going to have people like Claudia said at the beginning, who are just like, all you have to do is count your calories and then you can eat whatever you want. You can eat all this junk food. Like, there's these two extreme camps. And when you're on social media, when you're talking to people, anyone that is so hard, like on one side of things, is usually another red flag. Like, there's so much like nuance, and it's just like, you need to kind of find that gray area. So what I like to tell my clients who have said before, when it comes to tracking your intake, like, I am a big advocate for people doing it, even for like a month or, 8 weeks or whatever, to build awareness, is that it's what you're thinking about it. So when I started doing it, I was just like, I can't imagine, like, this is going to give me so much freedom down the road. Like, I don't track anything now, like barely, but I've maintained my weight for, a really long period of time, and it feels so good. The habits are in place.
Yeah.
I know that I can track if I want to go into a fat loss phase at some point, I can pull that tool out of my toolbox. I can start tracking again, but ultimately it's what you think about the action that you're doing. If you're saying it's obsessive and you're saying, oh, this is taking up all my life, then it's going to do that.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're like, you know what, this is a bit of an inconvenience, and it might be a little bit harder, but it's going to get easier the more I do it. And then ultimately it's going to give me freedom, like, then it will, So I think that's just something I wanted to add to that. Cause you see a lot of it, both sides, and it always drives me nuts. It's like, there's always like that gray area. It doesn't have to be black or white,
Especially for nutrition. I mean, and that's, again, another whole season of podcasts.
Yeah. I know. I was like, so many podcast like ideas right in here, right?
Right? Yeah. But I always say the same, like, every time I get a question about nutrition, my answer 95% of the time is, it depends. Like, it's not black or white. It depends what works for you, what you've done in the past, your health history, your goals, So I love that you mentioned that. That's a great point to add to some of this conversation. So I'm going to link all the links that we talked about today. I definitely recommend you guys who are listening right now to go follow Carrie, Instagram. You have Facebook as well?
Yes, although not super active on the Facebook, but Carrie Lee Fitness is on Facebook as well. But I think it's mostly my Instagram that goes up there. So
yeah. Okay, cool. So Instagram, you have your podcast as well with great episodes. So I would definitely, if this conversation sparks some ideas, a new approach, a new way to see and feel dieting from now on, definitely go reach out to Carrie and follow her. Thank you for this conversation. I really appreciate it. Like I said before we started recording, I love chatting with other coaches, just to have that same kind of approach, but hear it differently from other people. And like Carrie was saying, just be careful who you follow on social, and make sure that it's in this gray area and you can customize it for you, and that it inspires you. If you're scrolling and you're comparing yourself and you feel like shit and you feel like you're perfect with a crazy approach, just unfollow, guys. Like, life is too short to spend that time wasting your energy and shifting your states with social media. So I think that's a great message that you put forward as well. So definitely. Thank you.
Absolutely. I always say it's like, detox your closet, detox your social media. Like, you don't need these ridiculous detoxes. You detox these other things from your life, clothes that fit, people that make you feel good on social media, because it starts from there. Your environment's everything.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So I always finish every interview with one more question that I ask all my guests. What is your favorite quote and why?
Oh my gosh. Oh boy.
Or a mantra, or like something that inspires you, or.
Let me think. I would say a mantra, one that I use with all of my clients. Gosh, I feel like there's so many good quotes out there, but now,
my head is just
now. Like, oh my gosh. Yeah. Honestly, I'd say quote wise, like anything that like James Clear or, a lot of his quotes are some of my favorites, but my mantra, and that I tell my clients, is this, like, always something. People always think all or nothing. And it's just like, it's kind of always something. Like there's always something that you can do. You know, if you're struggling with, you know, your workouts and like you can't get in or, you know, the gym's closed because of COVID or something, like, you know, always something, there's always something that you can do. And it's just always remembering that no matter what it is, and that, and just like say, just do your best, which are kind of like cliche and like kind of, or maybe I'll come back later and post it, come up with my fancy quote, but yeah, just like small steps, make big impact. You know, it's like you can keep moving in the same direction. You don't have to sprint.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. Always something. We'll keep that in mind.
Always something. Yes.
Thanks, Carrie. Appreciate it.
All right.
J'espère que cette conversation awesome t'a inspiré. Et d'ailleurs, I would love to hear back from you. Rejoins Karmakin sur les réseaux sociaux and tag me in a post pour partager ce que tu retiens de cet épisode. Je serais vraiment grateful aussi si tu pouvais me laisser un rating and review pour le podcast. Ça me permet d'avoir un impact positif sur plus de gens comme toi. Merci beaucoup d'avoir été à l'écoute, and until next time, je te souhaite une journée awesome.